Just a few more, sweetheart. I know it hurts. The nurse's voice was gentle, but each camera flash still made Sarah flinch. The small examination room felt too bright, too exposed, even though it was just the two of them. Sarah sat on the edge of the paper-covered table in nothing but a thin hospital gown, her arms wrapped protectively around her ribs. "Can you lift your sleeve a little higher? I need to get the ones on your shoulder." Sarah's hand trembled as she pulled the fabric back. The bruises bloomed across her skin like poisonous flowers, purple and yellow, and a sickly greenish brown. Some were fresh from last night, others were nearly healed, faded ghosts of previous nights. The nurse, whose badge read Linda, didn't gasp or cry out. She'd probably seen worse. But her jaw tightened as she adjusted the angle and took another photo. "How long?" Linda asked quietly. Sarah's throat felt like sandpaper. 5 months. 5 months. It sounded like nothing when she said it out loud. Just 2 words. But those 5 months had been an eternity of walking on eggshells, of coming to work with concealer caked over fingerprint-shaped marks, of making excuses for why she couldn't meet friends for dinner, why she'd stopped going to book club, why she'd become a ghost of herself. "Since the wedding?" Linda's question was careful, clinical, but not unkind. Sarah nodded. She didn't trust her voice anymore. The wedding had been small, rushed. Marcus had convinced her they didn't need a big celebration. "Why waste money?" he'd said. "It's just about us." At the time, she'd thought it was romantic. Now she understood he'd been cutting her off from everyone who might notice, might question, might help. Linda lowered the camera and pulled up a rolling stool, sitting down so she was eye level with Sarah. "I'm documenting everything, okay? Every bruise, every mark. This is evidence. You don't have to decide what to do with it right now, but you'll have it when you're ready." "I can't," Sarah's voice cracked. "I can't go to the police. He's a lawyer. He knows everyone at the courthouse. He'll—" "You don't have to do anything today except let me help you," Linda interrupted gently. "But I need to ask, are you safe? If you go home tonight, will he hurt you again?" The answer stuck in Sarah's throat because she didn't know. Marcus had been apologetic this morning when he'd left for work, kissing her forehead as she'd curled up in bed, pretending to sleep. "I'm sorry, baby. You know I don't mean it. You just push my buttons sometimes." As if it were her fault, as if she'd forced his hands into fists. She'd waited until his car pulled out of the driveway before she'd dragged herself to the bathroom and seen the damage in the mirror. That's when she'd known she couldn't keep pretending. She'd called in sick to work, the first time in 5 months she'd missed a day, and driven herself to the urgent care clinic across town where nobody would recognize her. "I don't know," Sarah finally whispered. "I really don't know." Linda reached out and squeezed her hand. "Let me finish the photos. Then we're going to talk about options. You're not alone in this." But Sarah felt alone. Desperately, crushingly alone. Her parents had passed away years ago. Her sister lived in Seattle and they'd drifted apart. The friends she'd had before Marcus had slowly disappeared, not because they'd abandoned her, but because she'd stopped returning calls, stopped showing up, stopped being the person they'd known. And work. God, work. She'd managed to hide everything from her colleagues at Hartwell Industries. She was just an accounts manager, one of dozens in the finance department. Nobody paid much attention to her. She kept her head down, did her job well, and tried to be invisible. It was safer that way. Except for him, Nathan Hartwell, the CEO, the man whose name was on the building, whose face was on the cover of Forbes and Business Insider, the man who, inexplicably, had noticed her. It had started 6 months ago, right before she'd met Marcus, actually. She'd been working late on a quarterly report when Nathan had walked through the finance floor, something he rarely did. He'd stopped at her cubicle, asked her a question about some numbers, and she'd explained the discrepancy she'd found. He'd listened, really listened, and then he'd smiled at her. "Good eye," he'd said. "I need more people who pay attention like you do." After that, he'd remembered her name, would nod to her in the hallway. Once, he'd held the elevator for her when he'd seen her rushing across the lobby. It had been nothing, really, professional courtesy, but it had made her feel seen in a way she hadn't felt in years. Then she'd met Marcus at a friend's barbecue, and he'd swept her off her feet with his intensity and attention. They'd married quickly, too quickly, everyone had said, but Sarah had been lonely, and Marcus had made her feel wanted. By the time she'd realized her mistake, she'd been trapped. She'd thought about quitting her job, but Marcus controlled their finances now. She had no savings of her own anymore, no credit cards he didn't monitor. Her paycheck went into their joint account, and he scrutinized every penny. Work was the only place she still existed as herself, even if that self was muted and afraid. The camera flashed again. Linda had moved to photograph the bruises on Sarah's legs, the ones that would be hidden under her slacks when she went back to the office, if she went back to the office. "Okay," Linda said finally, setting the camera down. "I think I have everything. Let me print these out for you, and I'll get you some information about shelters and legal aid services." "I can't go to a shelter," Sarah said quickly. "He'll find me. He has connections, and I can't just leave all my things. Things can be replaced. You can't." Linda's voice was firm now. "But I understand. This is your decision. I'm just giving you options." Linda left the room to print the photos, and Sarah sat in the terrible fluorescent silence, staring at her hands. Her wedding ring caught the light. It was beautiful, a simple platinum band with a small diamond. Marcus had proposed after only 6 weeks. "When you know," he'd said. She'd been flattered, dizzy with it. Now the ring felt like a shackle. When Linda returned, she had a folder full of photos and pamphlets, but she also had an odd expression on her face. "I need to tell you something," Linda said slowly. "And you can say no, but I think I have a friend who works in corporate law, and she's mentioned that some companies have victim assistance programs. Does Hartwell Industries have anything like that?" Sarah blinked. I don't know. Maybe. We have an HR department, but I can't tell them. Everyone will know. What if there was someone you could tell? Someone with the power to actually help, who could keep it confidential? Sarah's stomach dropped. "I don't understand." Linda hesitated, then pulled out her phone. "I'm going to do something, and you can tell me to stop at any time. But I think you need someone in your corner who has resources. Real resources. What are you?" But Linda was already typing something on her phone, uploading the photos. Sarah watched in growing horror as Linda pulled up an email, attached the images, and began typing. "Who are you sending those to?" Sarah's voice came out strangled. Linda looked up. "Nathan Hartwell, the CEO of your company. His email is public, on the website. I'm sending him these photos and telling him one of his employees is in danger." "No." Sarah reached for the phone, but Linda held it back. "Listen to me. I looked him up while I was printing these. Hartwell Industries has a foundation that supports domestic violence survivors. He personally funds it. This man cares about this issue, and he has the power and money to protect you in ways that the legal system can't, not quickly enough anyway. You can't. He's my boss. I'll lose my job. Everyone will know. Or," Linda said steadily, "he'll help you. Maybe he's exactly the kind of person who will do the right thing." Sarah felt like she was watching from underwater as Linda hit send. The whoosh of the email going through sounded like a gunshot in the small room. "What did you say?" Sarah whispered. In the email, Linda handed her the phone so she could read it. Mr. Hartwell, you don't know me, but I'm a nurse at Riverside Urgent Care. I'm treating one of your employees, Sarah Donovan, who has been suffering domestic abuse for 5 months at the hands of her husband. I'm attaching photographic evidence of her injuries. She's afraid to go to the police because her husband is a lawyer with courthouse connections. She has nowhere safe to go. I'm sending this to you because I've read about your foundation's work, and I believe you're someone who might help when the system has failed. She doesn't know I'm sending this. Please don't let her down. Linda Chen, RN. Sarah's hands shook so hard she nearly dropped the phone. Oh my God! Oh my God! You sent my medical photos to Nathan Hartwell. You had no right. I had every right to try to save your life, Linda said, not backing down. Because that's what this is, Sarah. Life or death. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but eventually. You know that, don't you? Sarah did know. Deep down, beneath all the excuses and the hope that Marcus would change, she knew. It was only getting worse. Last night had been the worst yet. He'd kicked her when she was already down, something he'd never done before. The violence was escalating. What if he fires me? Sarah asked, her voice small. What if he thinks I'm a liability or dramatic or... Then he's not the man the media makes him out to be, Linda said. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. Sarah wanted to argue more, but the exhaustion crashed over her like a wave. She was so tired. Tired of being afraid, tired of hiding, tired of pretending. Maybe Linda was right. Maybe Nathan Hartwell would help. Or maybe this would be one more humiliation in a long line of them. Linda helped her get dressed, moving slowly around her injuries. By the time Sarah was in her own clothes again, jeans and a loose sweater that hid the worst of the bruising, 45 minutes had passed since Linda had sent the email. Come on, Linda said. I want you to wait in the family consultation room for a bit. I'm not comfortable with you going home right now, and I want to make some calls about shelter space. Sarah let herself be led down the hallway to a small, quiet room with comfortable chairs and a box of tissues on the table. She sank into one of the chairs and closed her eyes. She must have dozed off because she woke to Linda gently shaking her shoulder. Sarah, someone's here to see you. Sarah's heart stopped. Marcus, did you call? No. Linda's voice was strange. It's Nathan Hartwell. He's in the waiting room. He's asking if he can speak with you. The world tilted. Sarah gripped the arms of the chair. What? He's here? How? It's only been... What time is it? It's 2:30. He got here about 10 minutes ago. Apparently he was in a board meeting when he got my email, and he left immediately. He'd left a board meeting. For her. Sarah couldn't process it. I can't see him like this. I look. He knows what happened, Linda said gently. He's seen the photos. He's not expecting you to be put together. The question is, do you want to see him? Did she? Sarah's mind raced. This was her boss, the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. She was nobody to him, just one name out of thousands of employees. Why would he drop everything and drive across town to an urgent care clinic, unless Linda was right, unless he really did care? Okay, Sarah heard herself say. Okay, I'll see him. Linda nodded and left. A moment later, the door opened again, and Nathan Hartwell walked in. He looked different than he did in the office, less polished. He'd loosened his tie, and his dark hair was slightly disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it. His eyes, a striking blue-gray that Sarah had noticed before but never let herself think about, locked onto hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. Ms. Donovan, he said, and his voice was rough. Sarah, He stopped, seeming to struggle for words. Nathan Hartwell, who gave speeches to thousands, who commanded boardrooms and negotiated billion-dollar deals, couldn't find words. "I'm sorry," Sarah said automatically. "I didn't know the nurse was going to. I didn't mean to bother you. You didn't have to come. Don't." The word came out sharp, and Sarah flinched. Immediately his expression softened, and he held up his hands. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. God, I'm handling this badly. Please, can I sit down?" Sarah nodded, and he took the chair across from her, close but not too close. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and she could see he was genuinely shaken. "I got the email during a meeting about quarterly projections," he said quietly. "I opened it because it mentioned an employee in trouble. When I saw the photos, His jaw clenched. "I told my board I had an emergency and I left. I've been trying to get here as fast as possible without getting arrested for speeding." "You didn't have to do that," Sarah whispered. "Yes, I did." His eyes met hers again. "Sarah, I know we don't know each other well. You probably think I don't even remember who you are, but I do. I've noticed you for months now. You're brilliant at your job. You have an eye for detail that saved us from several costly mistakes. And over the past 5 months, I've watched you disappear." Sarah's throat tightened. "What do you mean?" "You used to smile," he said simply. "You used to speak up in meetings. You dressed in colors. I remember you had this blue blazer you wore sometimes. Then, around late spring, everything changed. You started wearing only beige and gray. You stopped contributing in meetings. You looked tired all the time. And you started wearing a wedding ring." He'd noticed all of it. The realization made Sarah want to cry. "I told myself it wasn't my business," Nathan continued, "that maybe you were just adjusting to married life or stressed about something. But there were moments when I'd see you in the hallway, and you'd have this look in your eyes like you were afraid. And I kept thinking I should ask if you were okay, but I didn't want to overstep. I was your boss. It wasn't appropriate." His hands clenched into fists. "I should have asked anyway." "It's not your fault," Sarah said. "I was hiding it. I didn't want anyone to know." "I know, and that's his doing, not yours." Nathan's voice hardened when he said his. "But now I do know, and I'm going to help you, if you'll let me." Sarah's defenses, worn down by months of abuse and the sheer exhaustion of survival, finally crumbled. "I don't know what to do," she admitted. "I can't go home. He'll be furious when he finds out I missed work. But I don't have anywhere else to go. I don't have money of my own. He controls everything. And he's a lawyer. He knows judges, police officers. If I try to leave, he'll do nothing," Nathan said, and there was steel in his voice now. "Because he's going to be too busy dealing with me. You don't understand. Marcus Kane. I already looked him up on the drive over. Associate at Brennan, Foster, and Kane. His father's a partner. He specializes in corporate litigation." Nathan pulled out his phone. "I've already made some calls. Do you know how many lawyers I have on retainer, Sarah? How many favors I'm owed by people in this city? Your husband might know courthouse staff, but I fund political campaigns. I play golf with the mayor. I have security professionals who've worked with the FBI." Sarah stared at him. This was a side of Nathan Hartwell she'd never imagined. Not the polished CEO from company newsletters, but someone fierce and protective and willing to use every ounce of his power and influence. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you do all this for me?" He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because no one deserves what you've been through. And because—" he hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. "Because I care about you. I have for a while now. I know that's probably inappropriate to say right now, and I'm not expecting anything from you. You don't owe me anything. But I need you to understand that I'm not helping you out of some corporate obligation. I'm helping you because the thought of anyone hurting you makes me want to tear the world apart." The raw honesty in his words knocked the air from Sarah's lungs. She searched his face for any sign of manipulation, any hidden agenda. But all she saw was genuine concern and something deeper, something that made her heart race in a way that had nothing to do with fear. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say you'll let me help. That's all I need to hear right now." Sarah thought about her alternatives. Going back to Marcus and pretending everything was fine until the next time he lost his temper. Going to a shelter where she'd be safe but alone and starting from nothing. Or trusting this man, her boss, someone who barely knew her but had dropped everything to be here. It wasn't really a choice at all. "Okay," she said. "Yes, please help me." The relief that washed over Nathan's face was palpable. He pulled out his phone again. "First things first, I'm getting you somewhere safe. I have a property, a condo in the Riverside district. It's furnished, secure, and currently empty. You'll stay there. Second, I'm calling my head of security. His name is Robert, and he's going to make sure your husband doesn't come near you. Third, we're going to get you a lawyer. Not someone from your husband's world, but someone who specializes in domestic violence cases and protection orders." "I can't afford." "I'm taking care of it," Nathan said firmly. "All of it. And before you argue, this isn't charity. Consider it a company benefit. We take care of our people at Hartwell Industries, and that includes protecting them from harm." Linda knocked and entered. "Sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to check on Sarah before my shift ends." Nathan stood and extended his hand. "Ms. Chen, thank you for reaching out to me. You might have saved Sarah's life." Linda shook his hand, looking pleased. "I'm glad I was right about you, Mr. Hartwell. Call me Nathan, please. And if you ever need anything, a job recommendation, a donation to this clinic, anything, you call me directly." He handed her a business card with a number handwritten on the back. "That's my personal cell." After Linda left with promises to follow up, Nathan turned back to Sarah. "Can you walk okay? I have my car outside. I'm going to drive you to the condo, get you settled, and then we're going to make a plan." Sarah stood, wincing as her ribs protested. Nathan noticed immediately. "Do you need a doctor? Someone to check if anything's broken?" Linda did an exam. Nothing's broken, just bruised. His jaw tightened again, but he just nodded. "Okay, let's get you out of here." He led her through the clinic and out to the parking lot where a sleek black Mercedes waited. He opened the passenger door for her and she slid in, feeling surreal. 24 hours ago, she'd been choking down dinner while Marcus lectured her about overcooked chicken. Now she was in her CEO's car, fleeing her life. Nathan got in the driver's seat and glanced over at her. "Do you need to get anything from your house? Medication, important documents, clothes?" Sarah thought about it. "My passport and birth certificate are in my desk at home. Some photos of my parents, my laptop, clothes. But Marcus might be home. What time does he usually get back?" "Around 6. Nathan checked his watch. "It's 3 now. That gives us time. I'm calling Robert to meet us there. We're going to get your things, and we're going to do it safely." He made the call while driving, speaking in calm, authoritative tones. By the time they pulled up to the modest townhouse Sarah shared with Marcus, a large man in a dark suit was already waiting on the street. Robert looked like he could break someone in half without trying, but when Nathan introduced him to Sarah, his voice was gentle. "Ma'am, I'm going to come in with you and Mr. Hartwell. We'll be quick. Just grab what you need and we'll be out of here." The 3 of them entered the townhouse, and Sarah felt like she was walking through a stranger's home. The furniture she'd picked out, the wedding photos on the wall, the kitchen where she'd tried so hard to make things nice. It all felt like a museum of someone else's life. "Bedroom's upstairs," she said quietly. She packed quickly, shoving clothes into a suitcase without bothering to fold them. She grabbed her documents from the desk drawer, her laptop, and a framed photo of her parents from the nightstand. The whole time, Nathan and Robert stood watch, one at the bedroom door and one downstairs. She was almost done when she heard Robert's voice from the first floor. "Someone's pulling into the driveway." Sarah's blood turned to ice. "It's him. He's home early." Nathan was beside her in an instant. "It's okay. Robert's here. I'm here. You're safe. Just stay behind me." They heard the front door open. Marcus's voice called out, "Sarah, what the hell are you doing home? Whose car's that outside?" Sarah couldn't move. The familiar fear paralyzed her. But Nathan took her hand, his grip warm and steady, and led her toward the stairs. Marcus was at the bottom, his face already flushed with anger. He was handsome in a clean-cut, conventional way, but right now his features were twisted with rage. "What the hell is going on? Who are you people?" "My name is Nathan Hartwell," Nathan said, his voice cold and controlled. "I'm Sarah's employer. She's leaving you. We're here to collect her belongings." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Sarah, get down here, now." For months, that tone would have sent Sarah scurrying to obey. But with Nathan's hand in hers, and Robert's solid presence blocking Marcus's path, something shifted in her. "No," she said. Her voice shook, but she got the word out. Marcus's face went purple. "Excuse me? You think you can just leave after everything I've done for you? I gave you a home, a life." "You gave her bruises," Nathan cut in. "You gave her fear. You gave her 5 months of hell. And it's over now." "This is my house," Marcus snarled. "I'm calling the police. You're trespassing, and you're stealing my wife." "Your wife is a human being, not property," Nathan said. "And by all means, call the police. I'd love to show them the photos of what you did to her. I'd especially love to introduce you to my legal team. Did you know that assaulting your spouse is still assault? That in this state, domestic violence is taken very seriously. I have prosecutors on speed dial who would love to make an example out of a lawyer who beats his wife." Marcus's bluster faltered. He looked at Sarah with something like panic in his eyes. "Baby, come on. Whatever you told them, you know you're exaggerating. We just have arguments sometimes. All couples do." "All couples don't end up photographing bruises at urgent care clinics," Nathan said flatly. "Sarah, please?" Marcus's tone shifted, became wheedling. "I love you. You know I do. I'll get help. We'll go to counseling. Just don't do this." It was the same song he'd sung a dozen times before. And a month ago, maybe even a week ago, Sarah might have wavered. But looking at him now, seeing him for what he really was, not the man she'd hoped he could be, but the one he'd proven himself to be over and over, she felt nothing but exhaustion and resolve. "I'm done, Marcus. I'm leaving." "You'll have nothing," he spat, his true nature reasserting itself. "You have no money, no place to go. You'll come crawling back, and when you do, I won't be so forgiving." "She has everything she needs," Nathan said, "and you're going to stay far away from her. If you attempt to contact her, if you show up at her workplace, if you so much as drive past her new address, I will bury you in legal action so deep you'll never see daylight. Do I make myself clear?" Robert stepped forward slightly, and Marcus seemed to register for the first time just how outmatched he was. His hands balled into fists, but he didn't move forward. "This isn't over," Marcus said. "Yes," Sarah said, and her voice was stronger now. "It is." Nathan guided her past Marcus and out the door. Robert followed, carrying her suitcase and a box of her belongings. Marcus didn't follow them outside, though Sarah could feel his eyes burning into her back. Once they were in the car and pulling away, Sarah started shaking. The adrenaline that had kept her upright drained away all at once, and she buried her face in her hands. "You did it," Nathan said softly. "Sarah, you were so brave. You stood up to him." "I couldn't have done it without you," she said through tears. "I would never have been able to, but you did. That's what matters." He drove her to the Riverside condo, which turned out to be a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment on the 12th floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river. It was furnished in soothing neutrals, completely different from the townhouse she'd just left. "It's beautiful," Sarah whispered. "It's yours for as long as you need it," Nathan said. He set her suitcase down in the master bedroom. "I'll have Robert do a security sweep and make sure the building management knows not to let anyone up without your explicit permission. There's a 24-hour concierge downstairs." Sarah sank onto the edge of the bed. The events of the day crashed over her. The clinic, the photos, Nathan showing up, the confrontation with Marcus. It was too much. Nathan knelt down in front of her, so they were at eye level. "Hey, look at me." She raised her eyes to his. "You're safe now," he said. "I know it doesn't feel real yet, but you are, and I'm going to make sure it stays that way." "Why are you doing all this?" she asked again. "You could have just sent HR to deal with me. You could have given me a number for a hotline and considered your duty done. Why are you here?" He was quiet for a moment, seeming to weigh his words. "Can I be honest with you?" She nodded. "I told you, I've noticed you for months. What I didn't say is that I've thought about you nearly every day. I've found excuses to walk past the finance department. I've memorized your schedule so I'd know when to time my elevator rides to maybe run into you. When I saw you'd gotten married, He broke off, looking almost embarrassed. "I was devastated. I told myself I'd missed my chance, that I'd waited too long to ask you to coffee or dinner, but I also told myself that if you were happy, that was enough." Sarah's heart was pounding. "Then I watched you fade," Nathan continued, "and I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what or how to ask. When I got that email today with those photos, I felt rage like I've never felt before, and relief. Relief that I finally had a reason to do something, to help you, to be near you, without it being inappropriate." He reached up and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers barely brushing her cheek. "I know the timing is terrible. I know you've been through hell, and the last thing you need is your boss confessing that he's been half in love with you for months. But I also know that I don't want to hide how I feel anymore. Not when life's too short and too unpredictable." Sarah's breath caught. "You're in love with me?" "Half in love," he corrected with a small smile. "I figure I need to actually know you better before I can claim the full thing. But yes, I am. And if you need me to just be your boss and your friend while you heal from this, I can do that. I'll be whatever you need me to be." She should have been overwhelmed. She should have told him it was too much, too soon. But instead, she found herself reaching for his hand. "What if I need you to be exactly what you are right now?" she asked quietly. His eyes searched hers. "Then that's what I'll be." They stayed like that for a long moment, hands joined, something fragile and precious forming between them. Finally, Nathan stood. "You should rest. There's food in the kitchen. I had my assistant stock the fridge earlier. Take tonight to just breathe. Tomorrow we'll meet with the lawyer and start the protection order process. Will you stay?" The words came out before Sarah could think better of them. I don't mean I just don't want to be alone." Understanding and warmth flooded his expression. "I'll stay. I'll take the guest room, and if you need anything in the night, you just call out, okay?" She nodded, feeling safer than she had in months. That night, Sarah lay in the unfamiliar bed and waited for the fear to come, the anxiety that had been her constant companion. But instead, she felt something she'd almost forgotten: hope. The next few days passed in a blur of legal meetings and logistics. Nathan's lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia who specialized in domestic violence cases, filed for a restraining order against Marcus. They gathered evidence: the photos from the clinic, Sarah's testimony, medical records. Patricia assured her they had a strong case. Marcus tried calling Sarah's phone obsessively until she blocked his number. He sent emails that ranged from apologetic to threatening. Patricia documented everything. "He's panicking," she explained. "Men like this don't handle losing control well. But he's also smart enough to know that if he violates the restraining order, he'll lose his law license. That threat is keeping him in check." Through it all, Nathan was there, not hovering, not controlling, but present. He worked from the condo some days, set up in the second bedroom with his laptop, always available if Sarah needed him, but giving her space to process. They had long conversations over coffee about everything except Marcus: her childhood, his path to building his company, books they'd both read, places they wanted to travel. Sarah found herself laughing for the first time in months. She found herself looking forward to mornings because Nathan would be there, already brewing coffee, with that smile that made her stomach flip. 2 weeks after she'd left Marcus, the restraining order was granted. 1 month after that, she filed for divorce. Marcus contested it, of course, but Patricia was relentless. She made it clear that if Marcus wanted to drag this out, they'd be happy to make the abuse public record and let his law firm decide if they wanted that association. Marcus backed down. The divorce would be finalized in a few months. Through it all, Nathan never pushed for more than Sarah was ready to give. He'd hold her hand when she needed comfort. He'd make her laugh when she was drowning in legal paperwork. But he never pressured her for a relationship beyond friendship, even though the attraction between them was obvious. 3 months after that terrible day at the clinic, Sarah returned to work at Hartwell Industries. She'd been on paid leave, something Nathan had insisted on, but she was ready to reclaim that part of her life too. Her first day back, she walked into the building wearing a blue blazer, a new one, brighter than the old one, and she smiled at the security guard. She took the elevator up to the finance floor and found her cubicle exactly as she'd left it. Except for the vase of fresh flowers on her desk, the card said simply, "Welcome back. N." That evening, Nathan knocked on the condo door. When Sarah answered, he was holding a bottle of wine and looking nervous in a way she'd never seen him. "I thought we could celebrate your first day back," he said. "But I also wanted to ask you something." "Okay," Sarah said, stepping aside to let him in. He set the wine down and turned to face her. "You've been through hell and back. You've been incredibly brave, and watching you reclaim your life has been one of the greatest privileges of mine. I've tried to be patient, to give you space to heal. But I need to know, is there a chance for us? Not now, necessarily, but someday. Because if there's not, I need to know so I can start trying to move on, even though I don't think I actually can." Sarah's heart swelled. This man, powerful, influential, wealthy, was standing in front of her looking vulnerable and hopeful, asking for a chance. "Nathan," she said softly, "you've been there for every hard day. You've seen me at my absolute worst. You've held me while I cried and celebrated with me over every small victory. You've been patient and kind, and you've never asked for anything in return." "So, is that a yes?" he asked, a small smile tugging at his lips. "It's a yes," she said. "It's been a yes for a while now, actually. I was just afraid to say it. Afraid I was moving too fast or that I was confusing gratitude with." He closed the distance between them in 2 strides. "And now? Now I know the difference," she whispered. "And I know what I feel for you is real." He cupped her face in his hands, his touch gentle, his eyes asking permission. She answered by rising up on her toes and pressing her lips to his. The kiss was soft and sweet and full of promise. When they finally pulled apart, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. "I'm going to court you properly," he said. "Dates, flowers, the whole thing. I'm going to prove to you every single day that you deserve to be cherished." "You already have," Sarah said, but she was smiling. "But I'm not going to stop you." They spent the evening on the couch, talking and kissing and making plans. For the first time in so long, Sarah felt like she could see a future, not one overshadowed by fear, but one bright with possibility. 6 months later, Sarah stood in Nathan's office at Hartwell Industries. He'd called her up from finance, which wasn't unusual anymore. They'd kept their relationship quiet at work, professional, but there were definitely rumors. "You wanted to see me, Mr. Hartwell?" she asked with a playful smile, closing the door behind her. He stood from behind his massive desk and crossed to her. "I did, Ms. Donovan. I have a proposal for you." "Oh." Her heart started racing. They'd talked about the future in abstract terms. Someday, eventually, but she hadn't expected. Nathan pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and lowered himself to one knee. "Sarah, the day I got that email from Linda, my whole world shifted. You walked into my life in the middle of a crisis, and somehow, you became the best thing that's ever happened to me. You're brilliant, brave, kind, and so beautiful it still makes me catch my breath when you walk into a room. I want to spend the rest of my life proving to you that you're loved, you're safe, and you're valued. Will you marry me?" He opened the box to reveal a stunning ring, an emerald surrounded by diamonds. "It's not a diamond," he said. "I know you have complicated feelings about traditional wedding rings, so I wanted something different, something that's just ours." Tears streamed down Sarah's face. Yes, absolutely yes." He slid the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into his arms and kissing her deeply. When they broke apart, both breathless, he grinned. "I have one more thing," he said. "There's more?" He led her to the window overlooking the city. "Look down at the plaza." Sarah looked and gasped. On the large display screen that usually showed company announcements, there was a message in huge letters. "Sarah Donovan just agreed to marry me. Nathan Hartwell, the luckiest man alive." "Nathan!" She swatted his arm, laughing. "Everyone can see that." "That's the point," he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "I want everyone to know. I want the whole world to know that you're mine and I'm yours." "People at work are going to talk," she said, but she was still smiling. "Let them talk. You know what else they're going to talk about? The fact that I'm promoting you to director of finance. You've earned it, and not because you're marrying me, because you're exceptional at your job." Sarah turned in his arms. "You're serious?" "Completely. Patricia from legal already vetted it to make sure there's no conflict of interest, given our relationship. Your promotion is merit-based. But yes, that means you'll be working more closely with me. Can you handle that?" She pulled him down for another kiss. "I think I can manage." That evening, Nathan took Sarah to dinner at the city's most exclusive restaurant, the one that required reservations months in advance. Somehow, he'd secured the entire private dining room. Over champagne and the most incredible food Sarah had ever tasted, Nathan took her hand. I want to tell you something, he said. I've been thinking about the foundation, the Domestic Violence Prevention Foundation that Hartwell Industries runs. I want to expand it. I want to create a program that specifically helps survivors get back on their feet. Job training, housing assistance, legal support. Everything you needed and more. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Nathan, that's beautiful. I want you to help me run it, he continued. If you want to. I know you have the new position in finance, but I thought maybe this could be something we do together. Use our story, anonymously if you prefer, but our story, to help others. I'd love that, Sarah said. I'd really love that. He raised his glass. To second chances, to brave nurses who send emails, and to the woman who changed my entire world by letting me help her. Sarah clinked her glass against his. To the man who saw me when I disappeared, who showed me what real love looks like, and who gave me my life back. They kissed across the table, both of them smiling, both of them exactly where they were meant to be. The wedding took place 6 months later in a small ceremony overlooking the ocean. Sarah wore a dress the color of seafoam, and Nathan couldn't take his eyes off her. Linda was there, honored as a special guest, beaming with pride. Sarah's sister flew in from Seattle, and Nathan's family, warm and welcoming, embraced Sarah immediately. When Nathan said his vows, his voice was steady but his eyes were wet. I promise to protect you, to cherish you, to see you always, even on the days you can't see yourself. I promise to be your partner, your friend, and your biggest champion. I promise that you'll never doubt your worth or your safety again. Sarah's vows were simpler, but no less powerful. I promise to trust you with my heart, to build a life with you based on honesty and respect, to never take for granted the gift you've given me, not just safety or security, but the courage to love again. You saved me, Nathan, but more than that, you showed me how to save myself. When the officiant pronounced them married and Nathan kissed her, Sarah felt the last piece of her old life, the fear, the shame, the shadow of Marcus, finally fall away. She was free. She was loved. She was home. At the reception, Nathan pulled her onto the dance floor for their first dance. As they swayed together, he whispered in her ear, "Have I told you today that you're the most incredible woman I've ever met?" "Only 3 times," she teased. "You're slipping." He laughed and pulled her closer. "I love you, Mrs. Hartwell." "I love you too," she said, and she meant it with every fiber of her being. Years later, when people asked Sarah how she'd met her husband, she'd smile and tell them it was complicated. But when she was alone with Nathan, she'd think about that terrible, wonderful day at the urgent care clinic, about Linda's courage and Nathan's fierce protectiveness, about how the worst moment of her life had led to the best. She'd think about the girl who'd been afraid to take up space, who'd hidden bruises and swallowed her voice, and she'd marvel at how far she'd come, not just because Nathan had rescued her, but because she'd found the strength to rescue herself. Nathan had given her a safe place to land, but she'd been the one who'd chosen to jump, and together they'd built something neither of them had expected, a love story that started in crisis but bloomed into something beautiful, a partnership based on trust, respect, and the unwavering belief that everyone deserves to be safe, to be seen, and to be cherished. Sarah never saw Marcus again. He'd moved to another state, his legal career quietly derailed by the whisper network that ensured his ex-colleagues knew what he'd done. The restraining order remained in place, and Sarah had long since stopped looking over her shoulder. The foundation she and Nathan built together helped hundreds of survivors. They created a scholarship program, a job placement service, and an emergency housing fund. Sarah spoke at fundraisers, sharing her story, the parts she was comfortable sharing, and every time she'd see faces in the crowd that reflected her old pain, and she'd see hope kindle in their eyes, because if she could escape, so could they. If she could rebuild, so could they. If she could find love after trauma, so could they. Linda became a close friend, someone Sarah had coffee with once a month without fail. She'd been right that day at the clinic when she'd said Nathan was the kind of person who would help. She'd been right to send that email, even without Sarah's permission. Sometimes, Sarah thought, angels came in the form of practical nurses who refused to look away. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Nathan surprised Sarah with a trip to the Maldives. As they stood on the beach watching the sunset, he pulled her close. "Do you remember what I said that first day at the condo?" he asked. "About being half in love with you?" "I remember," Sarah said. "I was wrong," he said. "I was already completely gone. I just didn't have the words for it yet." Sarah turned in his arms, her face glowing in the golden light. "Good thing you figured it out. Best decision I ever made," he said, "was leaving that board meeting to come find you." "Best thing that nurse ever did," Sarah countered, "was send you those photos." "Best thing you ever did," Nathan said softly, "was let me in." She kissed him as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange and gold. And in that moment, Sarah knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. Not because a powerful man had saved her, but because she'd saved herself with the help of people who cared. Because she'd found the courage to leave, to trust, to hope, and to love again. The bruises had long since faded, the fear had quieted, and in its place was a life richer and fuller than she'd ever imagined possible. A life she'd fought for, a love she'd earned, and a future bright with endless possibility. She was Sarah Hartwell now, survivor, fighter, director of finance, co-founder of a foundation that changed lives, wife to a man who saw her, truly saw her, every single day. And most importantly, she was herself again, stronger this time, wiser, unafraid. The nightmare was over. The love story was just beginning, and it was better than anything she could have dreamed. If you enjoyed the story, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the next chapter. Thank you for watching.